Hello students, welcome to week 5 for COM 560. This week we're looking at the primary concept we're focusing on this week is utilitarianism. We are reading chapter 12 in our course text as well as watching videos related to ethics and utilitarianism. We're completing discussion board number 5, which is due on Friday with the reply post due on Sunday, as well as selecting our topic for our critical assignment. Discussion board number 5 asks you, after you've completed all the readings and video watching and things of that nature, to locate 3 significant current events within society and describe and explain them within your post. For instance, what unexpected events have emerged that called for reflection articulation on, in order to look at ethical situations related to that are in a manner consistent with societal order and tenets of America. Share how at least one ethical theory, Kant's utilitarianism, or some other concept from the text applies to these situations, and how we can communicate ethically about them as communication strategists and such. So you'll pick a current event and look at how an ethical theory relates to it. You'll provide at least one outside scholarly source to support your notions, and post this no later than Friday and reply no later than Sunday. Our critical analysis number 1 is a new idea that these are our case studies that we are working on. It's a new concept this week. We are completing 3 of them within the course. Essentially, what you'll be doing is critically analyzing the case study provided in Blackboard, in which you will be looking at ethical behavior by individuals, including yourself, in a complex communication setting, and finding any ethical considerations that you need to know about, and write a 4 to 5 page paper providing a clear answer to the ethical dilemma. What you need to do is clearly identify in your paper the ethical problem, provide a clear statement indicating what you believe the person must do to make an ethical decision, then provide the decision you think is necessary, and provide support and justification for your position. In order to justify your support for your position, you'll need to use at least one of the philosophical branches that we utilized in week 1 through 3, as well as one ethical theory, which we're going over our second theory this week. So keep this in mind. When I mean one of the philosophical branches, I mean you'll talk about how either epistemology, axiology, teleology, or ontology relate to just one of those concepts, relate to the case study. The case study is not here in Blackboard. It's not here in the lecture. It's located in Blackboard. So you will go to Blackboard to look at that and then read through it and then come to a decision yourself. It's really easy to find. It's right before you get to the actual assignment submission for this assignment. The critical assignment asks you, and this is due in week 8, to write a 10 to 12 page paper analyzing a ethical behavior and a case study. What you're going to do is the critical analyses 1 through 3 are mini case studies that we're doing leading up to the critical assignment. So for this week, you will select the case study you choose to write on, and we'll go from there in a second. So the case studies are located in Blackboard. And it's a 10 to 12 page paper. The instructions are listed here to provide you with a brief overview of it, as well as understand what's expected of you. This is not due until week 8. However, we are taking a look at it now, so that way you have an idea. And when we get to this week, we're completing our topic selection. So what you'll do is you'll read the critical assignment paper and instructions, as well as the case studies that are due in week 8, and complete the directions below. So essentially, you're providing me with a 200-word rationale as to the choice of your topic, providing a list of at least 3 outside scholarly sources you plan to use in your paper, as well as a 100-word rationale for their use in your paper. You are required to use 6 outside sources. I want to see in your topic selection a rationale for the case you've selected, as well as a list of 3 of the sources you plan to use with a 100-word rationale for all of them. That's not individually, that's collectively. So I want to see that you've done some work looking towards this leading up to week 8 when it is due. When we are moving into some of the content this week, we're looking at utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is one of the most influential and well-known moral or ethical theories. It was developed mainly by the classic utilitarians Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Utilitarians believe that the purpose of morality is to make life better by increasing the amount of good things, such as pleasure and happiness in the world, and decreasing the amount of bad things, such as pain and unhappiness. They typically reject moral codes or systems that consist of commands or taboos that are based on customs, traditions, or orders given by leaders. Instead, utilitarians think that what makes morality be true or justifiable is its positive contribution to humanity. So some of these most important classical utilitarians, Bethan and John Stuart Mill, were both important theorists and social reformers of their time. Their theory, in general, has a major impact both on philosophical work and moral theory, as well as approaches to economic, political, and social policy. Really in determining whether utilitarianism is a correct moral theory is very complicated. This is because there's different versions of the theories, and oftentimes supporters disagree with which version is most correct. The overall view of utilitarianism is that it's a philosophical view and theory of ethics about how we should evaluate a wide range of things that involve choices that people face. Among these things that can be evaluated, laws, policy, character traits, and moral codes, utilitarianism is a form of consequentialism because it rests on the idea that it is the consequences or results of actions that determine whether the good, bad, or wrong are wrong. In general, whatever is being evaluated, we ought to choose the one that will produce the best overall results for the majority. In the language of utilitarians, we choose the option that maximizes utility. For example, that action or policy that produces the largest amount of good for the majority of people. Utilitarianism appears to be a simple theory because it consists of only one evaluative principle: do what produces the best consequences. In fact, however, the theory is more complex than that because we can't understand that a single principle unless we know at least three things related to this concept. 1, what things are good and bad. 2, who's good? Who's good, or which individuals or groups we should aim to maximize. And 3, whether actions, policies, etc. are made, right or wrong, by their actual consequences, the results that our action actually produce, or by their foreseeable consequences, the results that we predict will occur based on what we have. So in order for this to really work, we have to be able to define what is good. And that's what scholars have been focusing on and arguing over for hundreds of years. It's a major philosophical debate. What is truly good? The main thing to know is that in general, we look at utilitarianism as a form of consequentialism because it rests on the idea that it is the consequences of results of actions that determine whether the good, bad, or right or wrong can happen. We look at what produces the best consequences. Remember, utilitarians believe that we should choose the option that maximizes utility, the action that produces the largest amount of good for the people. We are looking at producing and looking at, oftentimes referring to this as it's often referred to as Robin Hood ethics, under the idea of justifying the actions based on doing the good for the best, or doing what's best for the majority. We're maximizing the utility or the action or policy that produces the largest amount of good for society. So in this sense, some people will justify that things that we view as unethical could be ethical if it's maximizing the utility, meaning the action or policy that's producing the largest amount of good for society as a whole. So as we move through this, think about that. It really looks on the main things to keep in mind are what we doing helping the majority rather than the minority. And if that action, whether it may be a crime by law or whatever it may be, as long as it's maximizing utility for the greater good of the people, is justifiable from an ethical perspective. So utilitarianism often is displayed if you have a hard choice of choosing. Your car is losing control, and you cannot brake, and can you veer it to the right and kill one person, or veer it to the left and hit 20 people? Utilitarianism would say, what am I doing to maximize the greater good? And you'd have to base your answer off of that. So keep things like that in mind. As we move through the course content, we are reading chapter 12. We're watching some videos on utilitarianism and core values, as well as completing discussion board number 5 and our critical assignment topic selection, as well as working on critical analysis number 1. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you this week. God bless.